No one really knows what the end of the world will look like, but the concept is ripe for speculation. It's perhaps no wonder then that the post-apocalypse has inspired countless mediums, especially video games. I think there's a few reasons for this. Firstly, it's the opportunity. A chance to wipe the slate clean and start over from scratch. It's similar to how people romanticize the early frontiersmen and a yearning for the good old days. But civilization is just a little less sophisticated, and people have more autonomy not only to act as they please, but have more of a direct effect on the world around them. Secondly, it's the aesthetics. Post-apocalyptic settings give creators a chance to add quirks to the world that can be explained as side effects of its calamity, blending genres of fact and fantasy. This can be as grounded as Mad Max's punk rock take on the end times, or as crazy as Adventure Time's candy-coloured world of Ooh. On a more cynical note, it can also be incredibly practical. After all, it's easy to explain away a lack of population, barren wastelands devoid of content, and even a lifeless look by setting your game in the post-apocalypse. But I think a lot of games miss out on the true strength of the genre. Post-apocalyptic fiction is interesting because, like most science fiction, is almost always allegorical. Like losing a loved one, the loss of the familiar can take a toll on people. A phantom shock of realising that what was once there is long gone, leaving only your memories of it behind. One series that has presented this kind of rich and well thought out consideration on the end times, and one that people wouldn't expect, would be The Legend of Zelda, especially last year's Breath of the Wild. Not only do I think the title is a reflection on grief told through the story of a world you failed to save, but it also presents an optimistic vision of a post-apocalyptic world you could choose to build, in one of the game's finest side quests, from the ground up. Of all opportunities in the game, this is one that guarantees that, even once you're gone, there is a piece of you in Hyrule left behind. This is a tale of Tarrey Town, and why Breath of the Wild builds a better future. The Legend of Zelda series has played with the conventions of apocalyptic scenarios in nearly all of its titles, with the driving force of each narrative usually facing the protagonist against potential world-ending events. In Ocarina of Time, you can travel between Hyrule both before and after a transformation brought on by Ganon's reshaping of the world, meant to show how once familiar locales have been corrupted by an evil magic. This includes seeing familiar faces who have shifted along with this world, usually for the worst, not to mention levels you had previously completed. Then there's the Wind Waker, where Hyrule has been washed under the Great Sea, and society has rebuilt on islands across the surface. In this case, however, the Great Sea is a world whose wounds have healed fully, where even the oldest characters only know of previous Hyrule through generations of storytelling and mythologizing. Majora's Mask is perhaps the most involved reflection on what the upcoming end of the world looks like, with the general air of uneasiness that permeates the entire game. This is a title full of NPCs that slowly crack under the knowledge of what's about to befall them, environments and models that look miserable and defeated, and most importantly gameplay that revolves around this fixation. The countdown towards utter annihilation isn't just the story's major driving force, nor just a mechanical hook, but it's the most prominent feature of the user interface. Finally, the game's most lauded feature, its side quests, contextualize the fetch quests and offbeat adventuring that you would commit to in other titles, by asking you to directly help characters find some kind of peace or resolution before their destruction. A lot of these memorable stories are down to the strength of the writing and its empathy of these in-game actors. Much has been said of the game's reflection on the 5 stages of grief, and while the developers haven't outright denied this, they've instead clarified that they wanted to explore how people can react differently while grieving. So, if Majora's Mask is a muse on pre-apocalypse and the terror of the end of the world, Breath of the Wild is its counterpart, a quiet, thoughtful acceptance in a post-apocalyptic world. When you wake up from your 100-year-old slumber, you're welcomed by a Hyrule that is familiar yet fading. Landmarks like the Temple of Time, the Marketplace, and Rito Town are nothing more than broken architecture. The skeletons lay bare, no more than simple shelter for wildlife and flowers. They're not much different than the surrounding, untamed landscapes, and I'm sure that if you had arrived another 100 years later, there'd be even less of them left. Hylians have stuck mostly to the surrounding hamlets and stables in quiet, rural areas of the world, having all adapted over the past century. Some have continued to live as they once did, their culture intact and community unchanged. Some have set off to travel this unkept land to try and turn a profit from an unstabilised economy. And some, unsurprisingly, have embraced the chaos entirely, aligning themselves with the monsters as self-appointed antagonists of the world. The 4 remaining races are pinned to the 4 corners of the map, facing their own problems without resolution. How these races have come to terms with their lingering grief are unique. The happy-go-lucky Gorons seem almost blissfully ignorant to raining fireballs. The Rito are clammy and sarcastic about their overhead headache. The Gerudo continue to stick to tradition in the face of a chaotic landscape. And the Zora, or at least the ones old enough to remember you, outright pin their blames directly on your failure to save the world. In the game's opening moments and these pockets of interactions, you're hit with the sudden realisation that the story you should know is being retold to you. The characters most important to the plot are long dead. Their headstones are 4 divine beasts that continue to torture their ancestors years after the fact. Your failure killed you the first time, though one of the mind than the body, with your memories and talents left fragmented. And worst of all, that open wound isn't just subconscious. It's physically manifests itself in the world as a calamity that covers the castle, spreading corruption to the surrounding countryside. Not just as monsters who want to keep you from finding peace, but even physical scabs and wounds that stare at you with beady eyes. Facing a demon that represents your grief of being unable to save a world is quite a powerful image for the game, one that you can see from nearly every corner of the map, and feel its influences even when you can't. But there's more to saving this world than helping your fallen comrades find peace and removing the malignant pain for good. There's the matter of helping people move on, and to build from the ashes of old Hyrule to create a new and better one. And we start from the ground up. This story begins with the most strange of beats. Link buys a house. For a game that presses the importance of finally ridding the world of its malignant menaces, Breath of the Wild doesn't stop you from investing in the future by letting you avoid the direct path for a smaller objective. After all, once the world is saved and peace is returned, well, what exactly are you going to do with yourself? And more importantly, where are you going to live? In Hateno Village, you'll find your answer. An old, disused home ready to be demolished by the Bolson Construction Company. Just like you, it's old, forgotten, but in perfectly good shape. Fit for you to start over if you wanted. Only a short walk from a village complete with a farm, traders, clothing store, laboratory, and Hyrule as a whole. Once it's yours, they even offer to furnish it for an additional price. The only thing they ask for is 3,000 rupees and 30 bundles of wood. If you've played Breath of the Wild, or at least familiar with RPGs, you know that this task isn't a simple one. That required grinding and exploration could have been put towards the main quest line, something that will become a staple of this quest at large. But these kind of investments pay off in the long run. You could of course stay at inns and eat at campfires, but they don't have the personalisation of something that is all your own. When the quest is completed, one of the builders responsible, Hudson, sets off to the Akala region to start working on Tarrey Town. Initially, the project is presented more as a model village for the Bolson Construction Company, a place to advertise their modular and somewhat charmless homes in an underpopulated region out from the two major settlements. But you soon come to realise that Hudson isn't just building a village because it's his job. He wants to transform it into somewhere he can call home. Of course, he can't do it alone. As well as bundles upon bundles of wood necessary for the project, he also needs some helping hands. Someone who can smash rocks, someone who can repair his work clothes, and finally someone who can set up trade routes. The quest sends you to all four corners of the map to find representatives from the four main races perfect to fit these roles. It's something to be said that this is a town built by all the major races of the game. A microcosm of not just modern Hyrule, but what Hyrule could be in this brand new town. It's fortunate too that the characters you find all have their own reasons for upping stakes to move to this new town. In a way, they all refuse to wallow in misery and want to make something of themselves. Fryson wants to be his own business owner outside of the Rito. Grayson wants to see a quarry beyond Death Mountain. And Ronson wants to find a suitable mate far from the Gerudo tribe. I should probably add, a stipulation of this quest is that each recruit has to have a name that ends in son. Anyways, eventually you even bring in the Zora, Capson, in what could be the last few years of his life, for an opportunity to return to the cloth for one final time, giving him a chance to practice what makes him happy. In a corny, if somewhat fitting ending, Hudson and Ronson are wedded in front of the town, made up of new faces, recruitments, and even the rest of the Bolson Construction Company. You haven't just built a town, but you've built new lives, and potential lives to come. And all you get for your troubles are 3 measly diamonds. But it's the satisfaction of watching this town develop with each visit that makes the quest something special. Seeing new homes pop up, and then watching them become lived in with their own quirks and flavour. This is a town that wasn't prescribed at the beginning of the game. And sure, while the quest itself is a linear fetch and find that will play out nearly identically in every version of the game, there's something to be said about watching history being created in real time, on a side quest not every player will commit to. The rest of Hyrule has roots to its forerunner, and even previous games in the series. Rito Village, the major races in their homes, and the landmarks like Hyrule Castle and the Temple of Time have all appeared in previous Zelda adventures. They're familiar, if affected by Breath of the Wild's take on the world, but Tarrey Town is a completely new creation, perfectly fitting for Breath of the Wild, and something that I hope returns in later games to ramp this point home. It's a quest that takes on the virtues of post-apocalyptic fiction that I wrote out at the beginning. Tarrey Town is an opportunity for multiple characters to wipe the slate clean, to leave their villages and the prescribed customs behind and have autonomy over their own destinies. Unlike the old world charm of the game's major settlements, this is a town that looks like nothing else in Breath of the Wild, made of brightly coloured cubes that are quirky on the outside, but personal on the in. You could even argue that it bucks the trend of cost-saving measures, because you're technically added more assets and characters into the game. But more importantly, it expresses a feeling about moving on from guilt that I think a lot of people don't quite consider. If anything should be taken from Breath of the Wild, it shouldn't just be moments leading up to the credits. It should be the world beyond that. Once your ultimate quest is complete, the divine beasts have returned underground and the kingdom is rid of corruption. Will anyone really remember what happened in 100 years' time? If you go out throughout the game sticking only to the main missions, will you leave impact in a world where problems disappear in plumes of purple smoke? But if you go to the effort of building an entire town from the ground up, by bringing in resources and the right people, something longer lasting sticks. Established trade will bring in new faces, the surrounding wilderness will generate jobs, and families will plant their roots here. Even if the town gets torn apart in another calamity, there will be history there that was only possible because you made it happen. A part of moving on isn't forgetting what came before it, but it's coming to peace with it, learning from it, and using it as a platform to build something better. Not just for yourself, but for those ahead of you. And I think there's something beautiful about that sentiment. That you'll leave something behind in this world, even after people can no longer ascribe your name to it.